Hey everybody, welcome to their GMG review. Today I'm taking a look at the latest Order Battletome from Games Workshop, Cities of Sigmar. Now, some pre-game caveats here. I haven't played a game with the army yet. I have not done a war scroll by war scroll comparison of all the war scrolls that are in this book, but they're also currently available to all of you on the AOS app if you want to check them out. The app is updated at the same time that this goes up usually, so you can see if there are any changes, and those who are more keen-eyed than me will probably point them out. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to focus on the stuff that is the primary focus of the book, which is adding a whole bunch of background. I'll give you some sort of TLDR explanations of the MacGuffin for the Cities of Sigmar and what they represent, and then of course the core rules for the faction, like their faction traits, and then all of the specific allegiance stuff for each of the different cities' keywords. So some folks have, there's been a lot of talk about this book. In fact, this might be the most talked about book, just like about like the strategy of what this book is and what it means, that's come out from Workshop in a while for Age of Sigmar. Mostly because there seems to be two floating sort of like theories about what the book was going to be about. It was either going to be sort of Codex leftovers, where all of the units that had kind of been sitting to one side in the Grand Alliance of Order were mashed together, or it was going to be something new and different that was going to give them all new traits and stuff like that. It's kind of neither. Now, what it does do is it does definitely take, I would say I don't want to use the word leftovers, but it takes all of the stuff from Grand Alliance Order that was a plastic kit from Warhammer Fantasy Battle that's still in the range and hasn't been like moved out, and gives it a home. So it gives it a Battletome basically to live in, and an army sort of like function to sit inside of. And there is a pile of units in here, like probably the single longest individual list of units in a Battletome in a long time, and a lot of freedom to mix and match them based on who your general is, to make them battle line, and etc., etc. What it doesn't do, though, is blend the sort of the individualistic keywords and traits that those individual keywords have in General's Handbook. So things like the Darkling Coven's true, the Free Guild stuff. It doesn't give you any of that. It's its own thing. So if you're taking those units, if you love the Free Guild's whole detachment ability, it's not in this book. You don't get that stuff in this. So you get to blend this in with all the other Order things instead. So let's talk about what the cities are, because they spend I would say the predominant portion of this book. The book is 128 pages, and roughly the first half of it, actually over the first half of it, I'd say, is going to be dedicated to the until 86 basically in the War Scrolls. That's where we're going to be talking about the stories of the Cities of Sigmar and who they are. So I'm going to flatten some pages. Don't freak out. Here it goes. And the Cities of Sigmar are a beachhead basically in the Great War against Chaos. So they were all gone. They're all destroyed when Chaos won the war basically and drove everyone back to the realm of heavens. But now, in the years since Sigmar's return, he builds these Cities of Sigmar when he liberates a place, basically, and they act as forward operating bases. And all of the peoples, the sort of the Order Alliance peoples, the Aelves, the Duardin, the Humans, who are living up in Azur, are able to go and populate this place now. And so over the years, it's kind of like the Primaris thing in 40k. We feel like it's really new still, but the return basically of Sigmar has been going on for some years now, and these cities have gotten really big and populated. The 7 cities we're going to talk about here, they exist in 2 realms, in fire and in life. So it's in Garan and in Akshi, and they're held together by Hammerhall, the first big major reclaimed city. And you might remember that Hammerhall was the city that was the key feature for Warhammer Quest, the second expansion for Warhammer Quest. So yeah. And I'm just going to go through just the syllabus here. You can see there's a gajillion War Scrolls. There's page 86 to 126 is War Scrolls. There's multiples on a page too. So I'm not going through all the War Scrolls because there's a bajillion of them, and they're all available today for you to check out anyway. So yeah, I don't have to worry about that. But you do get the usual stuff in here. You're going to get a sort of discussion of all the different cities, the talking about the different free people in the Cities of Sigmar. your allegiance traits and stuff, your path to glory. So you actually do get a path to glory option for them, which I think is really cool, that you can use kind of the regular humans now in path to glory, along with the Aelves and the Duardin too. And then a huge pile of war scrolls in your pitch battle profiles. So let's talk about the 7 cities. The first one we're going to talk about is Hammerhall. And the big important thing to remember about Hammerhall is it sits in a realm gate. And it's a realm gate between fire and life. So it has 6 more of these Stormhost strongholds now. The biggest one's built around the realm gate. The other ones are basically on the expansions on either side. So the city actually sits on both sides of the realm gate and is expanding into both. So it's like this huge, crazy like beachhead. And then on either side of that, there's going to be 3 cities in this book that are from the realm of fire, and 3 cities that are from the realm of life. And so that's important kind of later on, because if you're using malign sorcery, and also if you're using any of your I'm from a place traits, you have to use those realms. You're basically realm locked for where your army's from if you decide to use this book into either fire or life. You don't have a choice otherwise. No freely picking a city that's from somewhere else yet. And then of course the history and stuff, beautiful color plates, and then the usual, hey, here's the whole timeline of the Age of Myth, the Age of Chaos, Sigmar's Return, Season of War, all the things that happen through there. And then we start talking about Hammerhall, the twin-tailed city. And it's called the twin-tailed city because it sits on both sides of the gate. So it's in 2 realms, basically. It spans 2 realms. And there's, I like this, the Academe Martial. It's basically the school. It's kind of like what what's it called in 40K? The school that teaches all the commissars. It's the same sort of idea, but for humans. You can learn to be a good fighter and be very well taught. You become one of the Dragoon Generals of Hammerhall. This is the history of taking back Hammerhall from the hordes of like orcs that were basically living around it. And now we get into the next city, which is the Living City. This is a neat one. This one's in Garan, and this is Alariel's free, like big giant free city. So this is the one she grows it out of like trees and brambles and magic azurite rock. So it's neat because it includes wanderers, and when we see later on, you can actually include Sylvaneth in it as well. But its whole thing is that it's the realm of life basically deciding that it's going to side with Sigmar, and it's a sign of like the pact between Alariel and Sigmar. And each of them it's cool. Each of them gets a story too. And I talked about this a little bit when I talked about why I love the Eisenhorn series for 40K. All of the stories in this book, all the background, it's not big set piece battles. It's not heroes dueling like in the mists. It's all like Joe Everyman and like his life in this city. And that's the stuff that's missing right now from Age of Sigmar, I find, more than anything else. And it's in the novels now. I think they've done a really good job pushing that, but it's also in these books, is we're getting a taste of sort of like what everyday life is in the mortal realms. And all of these inserts tend to follow sort of like average people, which I think is really cool. The Greywater Fastness. So it's the Greywater Fastness is in action now. This is the realm of Fire City. And it's where all the guns and black powder get made. Basically, the Duardin not war clans. It's they have a name. It's something clans, like construction clans or something like that. Foundry clans. They're the Ironworld Arsenal. Basically, is based there, and the Council of the Forge, and they make all the guns for Sigmar's armies. And so they were besieged at one point. And they had to use so many guns that they basically poisoned the land all around the city, and all of the lakes and everything were like filled with ash and fire, and it became the Greywater Fastness. And so their city is kind of grim. It's definitely not like a pretty beautiful city. It's not as pretty as like the Living City is, but it's got a huge like coalition of like elves and men, dwarves and men in it, who are basically building steam tanks and building. They're the industrious ones, building guns, building artillery and stuff. Now the Phoenician is probably the weirdest one. So there's a giant ancient dead tree the size of a mountain, and at one point during the war against Chaos, there was a city built at its foot, and it was attacked by the force of Chaos, and there's such a huge like eruption of like magic or something happened during the battle. It split the tree open, and a huge like wave of sap drowned everyone in city and encased them in amber. And so when the forces of like Order were taking it back, the Order of the Phoenix arrives there, the Phoenix Temple, sorry, and their Flamespire and Frostfire Phoenixes immediately like fly over top of it, and like whatever their magic dust is, kind of aerosolized all of the amber, and unlock basic, but it kept all the bad like chaos guys encased there, and that formed the walls of the city. And so there's this weird like golden mist all through the city, and they built like the first stronghold built in it that's built in the center is a Phoenix Temple, and now like it's this weird kind of like amber glowing. And it's in the realm of life, but it's like the strangest weird city. And so kind of the key focus there is the Phoenix Guard, the old plastic Phoenix Guard and all the Phoenix stuff from that. And it's a very weird story. Then if you like pirates, there's Anvil Guard. Anvil Guard is built it's the frontier town of these cities of Sigmar. And it's built on like the edge of a huge pool of water in Guerrilla again. And it's like known for all of its monstrous wildlife. It's like the weird stuff that like lives in the woods and lives in the water. So things like the Cryptus and the Hydra. War Hydra. This would be where the Drakesworn Templars. No, not Drakesworn. Yeah, I think the Drakesworn Templars and also the other ones. The Darkling Coven version. The old Drake Riders would be sort of coming from. And unfortunately, it's not just that it's not just under siege by like the Force of Chaos and all the baddies and destruction and Grand. They're trying to take it back. It's the actual like it's built basically next to a volcano and also a huge jungle, and the volcano is constantly erupting and burning down the jungle, but the plant life is so like voraciously strong it grows back almost immediately, and the Ironworld alchemists have to like build a giant weird like defoliant, and it sprays out of dragon heads all around the city walls, and it's apparently harmless to like living things, but it just kills plants. And so they're constantly spraying this defoliant everywhere, and so the whole city is in this like weird green mist, and is a bit more it's a bit darker and weirder, and there's a lot of blackmail and murder and stuff. It just goes to show that even in like the realms of order, not everything's just nice and happy. They're not saying kumbaya, right? They're just not trying to like they're not crazy cannibal psycho killers. We got Hallowheart. Hallowheart is once again an Akshi, and it's built around the volcano lair of a giant dead drake, a weird flame drake, and it was like influenced by Tzeentch. It became bad during the war and it was killed. And this one's got a whole bunch of Duardin in it. There's the Vorstag Large has like a huge mercenary contingent there because they helped clear during the Realm Gate Wars. And it's really magically infused and full of emberstone. So like it's a volcano with like magic in the air basically, and so all the stuff you can mine out of it is very like, I guess like it's mineral rich with magic rock, I guess is the MacGuffin. Tempest City. This is built on a mountaintop. Once again, an Akshi and a peninsula in Akshi, and this would be the one where you've got the Karadan overlords basically being super like I guess important, and the Tempest Lords make their one of their big Stormhost layers there too. And that's it. So those are the six. Yeah, those are the six. Then the Collegiate Arcanes, super important. They actually become more influential basically during this book, and they're learning basically of like what's going on in the realms of magic and stuff, since the mind sorcery and all of the extra like crazy magical things that are happening is allowing them to do some crazy stuff with endless spells. So they get a big perk later on that you'll find out about, where they get some up-jumped endless spells, which is pretty awesome. The Free Guilds, of course, famous for their handguns and standing and shooting on twos and winning on twos. Dispossessed Armor Arsenal. So what's nice about this is previously we've mostly known about these things through keywords. In this book, all of these keywords get like a big discussion, basically. The Free Guilds get a big discussion. Like, what are the humans doing? Why are the Dispossessed called the Dispossessed, and what are they doing in the Mortal Realms? Same with the Ironworld Arsenal, the Darkling Covens, Scourge Privateers, Shadow Blades. Like, what is going on with these people? The Wanderers. Actually, the Wanderers are one of my favorite ones, because you find out they're called the Wanderers because they abandon Elariel. They're actually the elves that, the reason all the other elves are spirits is they died during the war against Chaos, and the Wanderers basically are the ones that fled with Sigmar. And Elariel felt it was this giant betrayal, and all of the Revenant elves basically that are living in the trees that you see in the Sylvaneth army hate these guys because they think they're traitors. So it's so nice to have some like relevance basically to these keywords, and it's all written into here. The Order Serpentis, that's what it was. The Order Draconis is the good guy version. But they're weirdly absent from this book. You might notice there's It's only the Phoenix Temple really that's mentioned in this book, and the other stuff like the Hoth and the Realm of Light stuff, not in this book. Might be getting its own books. Probably getting its own book. We're into the art section now, the color section, and what I do like is they make a point basically of painting like a little starter army to show you all through the book in these colors, because it's cool to see a Duardin like in the Living City in like a weird jade green Gromrel plate and stuff. Like I think that's cool, and I appreciate they take the time to make these. They didn't just grab a bunch of studio miniatures and throw them down and be like, yeah, this is, if you take this combination of our studio miniatures painted whatever old Warhammer colors they're painted in, it's going to look like this, and it's this army. Now, they actually went and painted new ones. Same with Hallowheart and all the blues and whites. Like, they all have their own symbol, too. The Phoenicium is actually a really cool color. The Greywater Fastness. And they have their own handgunner order called the Grey Caps, which I think is really cool. Tempest City. Because I'm really tempted to do one of these armies. Mostly because, well, you'll see later on. Mostly because I basically have the starts of one in my 2 other armies. And then the Pride of Hammerhalls, they did a big Hammerhall army. I imagine that when you see the Twitch streams and all the Warhammer TV stuff, they'll be showcasing this army. Because it looks like the biggest of the groups. And you do have to pick a city keyword when you play with this book. All right, I think we're done color sections. Let's jump into, I think we go into some painting tips. It's nice because they show you what they basically demonstrated earlier on, but they also give you like how to paint the banners. Like, that's really cool, because a lot of the old Warhammer banners, especially for these units, they're going to be blank, and they're going to have like, they would have used to have come with an old decal sheet that like isn't really relevant anymore. The symbology doesn't really represent what you're playing anymore. And so giving you like a little, here's how to paint the Living City tree. That's so cool. And I love that it's a tree with Sigmar's comet on top. It's slick. Doing basing. And then we're into allegiance abilities. The cities of Sigmar. Okay, so allegiance abilities. When you choose a City of Sigmar army, you must give it a city keyword from the list below. So you don't have a choice. All Cities of Sigmar units in your army gain this keyword, and you can use the allegiance abilities listed for the city on the pages indicated. So Hammerhall, Living City, Greywater Fastness, Phoenicium, Anvil Guard, Hallowheart, or Tempest's Eye. If a model already has a city keyword on the war scroll, it cannot gain another one. You can still include the model in your army, but you cannot use the allegiance abilities for its city. So if you've got like there are actually some named characters in other books right now that have some city keywords, which is neat. And if they didn't before, they're going to show up in the app probably pretty soon. So this is the bit with the Collegiate Arcane, Amplified Sorceries. If a Cities of Sigmar wizard successfully casts an endless spell, and so Cities of Sigmar, you'll notice, is actually something you can hand out quite a bit in this book. Those abilities are in effect, so all the enhanced abilities are in effect regardless of the realm in which the battle is taking place. So if it has any of these words, empowered by Akshi, empowered by Kaimon, empowered by Gur, empowered by Garan, Hish, Shish, or Ulgu, you're going to get all those bonus stuff. So basically any amplified sorcery or any Cities of Sigmar wizard, and it doesn't have to be the Collegiate Arcane, guys, but that's the story MacGuffin for why this is happening, can use the empowered versions of all the endless spells, which is pretty cool as like a freebie. Then we have Warriors of the Realms. The battle traits for each City of Sigmar will list the mortal realm in which the city is located. If you're using the rules from Warhammer Age of Sigmar Malign Sorcery, your army must be from the same mortal realm as the one in which the city is based. In the case of Hammerhall, your army can be from either Akshi or Garan, because it sits in both, which I think is awesome. Now, this is a neat one. Honored Retinue. Now, it only applies to when you pick your general for City of Sigmar army if they have a wound characteristic of 6 or less. So you cannot take this ability if you have a wound characteristic of more than 6, so no big heroes. But you get to pick a retinue for that general, and it was any unit in your army between 5 and 20 models. If you pick a retinue, your general gains the following ability. And notice they make it a minimum of 5 models, so you can't take like big knight blocks or like little knight blocks or like have a monster be your retinue. They gain the Loyal Shield ability. Roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to your general while they're within 3 of the retinue. On a 4+, it's allocated to the retinue instead. So they basically can suck up wounds for the general, which is nice, because a lot of the generals in like the Free Guild, the Scourge Privateers, they're really squishy, so having a bodyguard unit's pretty nice. Then you also get the general's adjutant. When you choose the general for a City of Sigmar army, if your general has a wound characteristic of 6 or less, you can pick one friendly hero to be your general's adjutant. This hero must have a wound characteristic of 6 or less and cannot be the general. They gain the following ability. Wise Counsel. At the start of your hero phase, if your general is within 3 inches of the adjutant, Roll a dice. On a 4+, you get an extra command point. So he becomes a command point battery. And then Storm Keeps. 1 in every 4 units of the Cities of Sigmar can be a Stormcast Eternals unit. They gain the same Cities of Sigmar keyword as the city keyword chosen for your army. Now, they don't gain the additional host keyword. They gain the keyword for Cities of Sigmar, because you're not Stormcast Eternal, you're Cities of Sigmar here. So you're not going to get all the benefits of whatever the traditional Stormhost is, but you can take Stormcast units in this army. Just as freely as you like. It's just 1 in 4. All right, so battle traits. So every city gets their own set of battle traits. For Hammerhall, you get the City of Two Realms. You can be from either Acti or Gran. You get Banners Held High at the start of your hero phase. Roll a dice for each friendly Hammerhall unit that includes any standard bearers. For each 6, you get an extra command point. So you get potentially tons of ability to take command points. I will guess that the 1 banner maximum is probably in all of the War Scrolls in this book. So if there was a trick before where you could take, like, for every 10 guys you get a banner or something like that, well, that's probably not in their mind. That's probably gone. The Master of Hammerhall, if your army includes Aventus Firestrike, because he has that city keyword probably, and he's your general, at the start of your first hero phase, you receive an extra command point. The Pride of Hammerhall, do not take battle shock tests for Hammerhall units that are wholly within your territory. And Righteous Purpose, you can use this command ability at the end of the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Hammerhall unit that's wholly within the enemy territory, wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Hammerhall unit, and within 3 of an enemy unit. That friendly unit can fight. A unit cannot benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. So a double fight for a CP, and they have to be wholly within enemy territory and within 12 of a hero, and then 3 of an enemy unit. So basically a double pile-in. Hammerhall command traits for your Hammerhall general, the Twin-Tailed City. You get the Academia Prodigy, so you get to add 1 to your attack characteristic of your melee weapons. So of the general's melee weapons. So if you have more than 1 melee weapon, all of them get +1. Ugh. In addition, you start the game with an extra command point. Blood of the 12. I like that there's a story about the 12 original families of Azahheim. I think it's cool. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly melee weapons by friendly Hammerhall units within 12 of the general. Sorry, wholly within 12 of the general. And then aggressive general, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Hammerhall unit that are wholly within 12 inches of the general, if this general made a charge move in the same turn. So reroll wound rolls of 1 and add ++ to hit for an aura, and then get 1 extra attack on all your melee weapons, an extra CP. I think the first one's probably the best one, because it doesn't require anything extra of you. If you're taking a fighty hero, if you're taking a support hero, maybe not. And you're very likely to take a support hero in this list. Treasures of Hammerhall, Armor of Malice, add 1 to save rolls. Saint's Blade, pick 1 of the bearer's melee weapons, improve its run by 1. In addition, while the bearer is within 6 inches of an objective marker, add 1 to damage inflicted by the weapon. And the Twin Stones, this one's neat. It depends on which aspect you chose. You can use this artifact in your hero phase. If you do so, pick its Acti aspect or its Gran aspect. It does 2 things. If you do Acti, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by friendly Hammerhall units wholly within 12 of the bearer. If you do Gran, roll 1 dice for each friendly Hammerhall unit wholly within 12 of the bearer. On a 4+, you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to that unit. And then your spell roll is the Lore of Cinder. Wings of Fire. Wings of Fire is a casting value of 6. If successful, pick 1 friendly unit that is visible to the caster. Add 1 to run charge rolls for that unit until the start of your next hero phase. In addition, until the start of your next hero phase, that unit can fly. Those flying foot dudes. Cinder Cloud, casting of 7. If successfully cast, until the start of your next hero phase, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target friendly units wholly within 9 of the caster. That's a good one. And then Twin-Tailed Comet, it's casting 7. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 18 of the caster that's visible to them. They take D3 mortal wounds, and if they have 10 or more models, they take D6 mortal wounds instead. The Living City, I think this is my favorite one, and this is probably the one I'm going to build if I do build one. It must be from Guerrilla, but it has city wargroves built around it. The Living City can include Sylvaneth units. 1 in every 4 units in the army can be Sylvaneth. Those units gain the Cities of Sigmar keyword and the Living City keyword. So you become part of this army basically if you're Sylvaneth and you're in the Living City. It also means you could take this and Stormcast in the same list. Hundreds of the Hidden Paths. Instead of setting up a Living City unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that set up in the Hidden Paths as a reserve unit. You can set up 1 reserve unit on the Hidden Paths for each Living City unit you have in the battlefield. In your movement phase, you can set up 1 or more of these units in the battlefield, wholly within 6 of the edge, and more than 9 from any enemy units. Any reserve units on the hidden paths that are not set up before the start of the 4th battle round are destroyed. So it's kind of like the ambush rules for the Beastmen. Attune to nature. At the start of your hero phase, you can heal 1 wound allocated to each friendly living city unit. Every unit in the army heals 1 wound. Crazy. Command ability, this is your unique one, strike and melt away. You can use this command ability at the start of your shooting phase. If you do so, pick one friendly living city unit that shot that phase. It is more than 9 from any enemy units and wholly within 18 of a friendly living city hero. That unit can make a normal move. It cannot run. A unit cannot benefit from this ability more than once per phase. So you can basically, after you've hit, you can then run away in your shooting phase. Blessed of the Air, so your command traits. This is living sighted, blessed of the Everqueen. Iron Oak Artisan, add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target this general. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by this general. So, yeah, that's a nice Spirited Earth with a 2+ save and a 2+ to wound giant sword. Forest Strider, this general can run and still charge in the same turn. In addition, friendly units are not affected by the deadly scenery rule if they're wholly within 12 inches of the general. He just tells them where to go. Druid of the Everspring Circle. If your general's a wizard, they know all the spells from the Lore of Leaves over here. If the general's not a wizard, they know 1 spell from Lore of Leaves and they can attempt to cast it once per turn. So, yeah, get a free cast for somebody. Your artifacts, the Relics of the Everspring. Spear of the Hunt. Pick 1 of the bear's melee weapons, improve its run by 1. In addition, the bear and their mount fights at the start of the combat phase if they made a charge move in the same turn. The bear cannot fight again in that combat phase unless an ability or spell allows them to fight more than once. So they always fight first if they made a charge in the same turn. The Deepmire Cloak. If the bear has a wound characteristic of 6 or less, while they're in cover, they cannot be chosen as a target of a missile weapon. If the bear has a wounds characteristic of 7 or more, while they're in cover, subtract 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons that target the bear. And then the Wardroth Horn. This one's cool. Once per battle in your hero phase, the bearer can sound the Wardroth Horn. If you do so until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 of the melee attack characteristic of melee weapons used by living city Sylvaneth units. So all their melee weapons get +1 attack. Everyone on the table for all the Sylvaneth that are in your army. Madness. And then Lore of Leaves, Life Surge, has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly model within 18 of the caster. You can heal D6 wounds allocated to that model. Holy moly. Cage of Thorns, cast on a 7. If cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 18 of the caster that's visible. Have the move characteristic of that unit until the start of your next hero phase. In addition, until the start of your next hero phase, the first time that unit moves, it takes D6 mortal wounds. And then Iron Oak Skin, cast on a 6. If cast, pick 1 friendly unit wholly within 18 of the caster invisible. Subtract 1 from wound rolls that target them until your next hero phase. I like the sound of the Living City. They got a lot of cool, tasty stuff. So the Greywater Fastness, this is the gunboats, this is the gun folks. Amidst the Ghoulmere, they have to be from Garan. No choice. Rune Lord, in your hero phase, 1 friendly Greywater Fastness Rune Lord can chant the following prayer in addition to any prayer in their war scroll. If they do so, make a prayer by rolling a dice. On a 1, the prayer is not answered. On 2+, it is. Rune of Unfaltering Aim. If the prayer is answered, pick 1 friendly Ironweld Arsenal War Machine within 3 of the model. Until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the missile weapons in that unit. And then Home of the Great Ironweld Guilds. Increase the range characteristic of missile weapons used by friendly Greywater Fastness Ironweld Arsenal units by 3. Does not affect their minimum range if it has 1. In addition, if you are fighting a pitched battle, you can include 1 additional Ironweld Arsenal artillery units. You get an additional artillery choice. And your command ability is Salvo Fire. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Greywater Fastness Free Guild Handgunners unit, or 1 friendly Greywater Fastness Iron Drakes unit, wholly within 12 of a friendly Greywater Fastness hero. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons by that unit until the end of the phase. The unit cannot benefit more than once per phase. And then your command traits, Sentinels of the Greywater. Seat on the Council. At the start of your hero phase, if this general's on the battlefield, roll a die. On a 4+, you get an extra command point. Drill Master. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by missile weapons by friendly Greywater Fastness units that are wholly within 12 inches of this general, or this general is more than 3 inches away from the enemy units. The Ghoulmere Ranger. Friendly units wholly within 12 inches of the general can run and still shoot later in the same turn. And then your artifacts of power, steam, piston, plate mail, so you get power armor basically. Add 1 to save rolls for the bear. In addition, if the bear does not move, add 1 to the bear's, sorry, it does not have a mount, add 1 to their move as well. Runic munitions, pick 1 of the bear's missile weapons, add 1 to its damage. Maestro Vivetti's magnificent macroscope. At the start of the first battle round, you receive an extra command point. In addition, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by missile weapons carried by the bear. Then you got your spell lores, the lore of smog. Oh, there's smoggies. Descending Ash Cloud has a casting value of 6. If cast, pick an enemy unit with an 18 of the caster that's visible. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until the start of your next hero phase. Eroding Blast. Eroding Blast casts on a 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 terrain feature wholly within 18 of the caster and visible to them. Roll 1 dice for each model within 1 inch of the terrain feature. On a 5+, they suffer a mortal wound. In addition, until your next hero phase, that terrain feature has the deadly scenery rule in addition to any other scenery rules it might have. And then Choking Fumes has a casting value of 6. If cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 15 of the caster that's visible to them. Roll 1 dice for each model from that unit that's within 15. For each 5+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So you pick that enemy unit, and then roll a dice for each model in that unit that's within 15 of the caster. Yeah, it's a good Choking Blast. It's a great one for like Skaven or anybody who's got like bananas amounts of models. The Phoenicium is always from Garan. They're at the foot of the Quagmia Mountain, the big weird mountain that cased everything in amber. Vengeful Revenants. Add 1 to hit rolls, hit and wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Phoenicium units if any friendly Phoenicium units have been destroyed in the same phase. Blood of the Phoenix. Add 1 to the wounds characteristic of Phoenicium Frostheart Phoenixes and Flamespire Phoenixes. And Living Idols. Warriors of the Phoenicium consider Phoenixes to be blessed. Use this command ability at the start of your combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Phoenix until the end of that phase. If the friendly Phoenix is slain while it's within 12 inches of the hero, that model can fight before it's removed from play. Command traits, the Seeker of Vengeance. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of the general's melee weapons. If 1 or more friendly models have been slain in the same phase, add 3. If 5 or more models, add 1 if 1 or more friendly models have been slain. Add 3 if 5 or more models have been slain in the same turn. So he gets matter, basically. It does nothing if no one's died yet, so if he goes first. But if someone's died, he gets matter and gets like crazy stabby. 1 with Fire and Ice. If this general is a wizard, they know all spells from Lord of the Phoenix instead of just 1. If this general is not a wizard, they know 1 spell from Lord of the Phoenix and can attempt to cast in your hero phase. Aura of Serenity. Then I'll take battle check tests for friendly Phoenician units when they're wholly within 12 inches of the general. And then our Artifacts of Power, the Treasures of the Phoenix Temple. The Amber Armor. If weapon used for an attack that targets the bear has a rend of better than -1, change it to dash. The Phoenix Pinion. The bear can fly. In addition, the bear can run and still charge in the same turn. And the Pyre Ashes. If an unmodified save roll and attack targets the bear is a 6, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the bear. Your Spell Lores. The Lord of the Phoenix. Amber Tide. Cast on a 6. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit with an 18 until the start of your next hero phase. Have their movement. I feel like the other one was better. The one that the Oaken or the Iron, what is it? The Thorny Cage or whatever. The Cage of Brambles. Phoenix Cry is a casting value of 5. If successfully cast until the start of your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 18 of the caster. And then Golden Mist has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, you can heal D3 wounds allocated to each friendly Phoenicium unit within 12 of the caster that's visible to them. So a big like explosion of healing. Anvilgard battle traits. All right, so this is Anvilgard now. This is the misty city that's defoliating everything. They're always from Akshi. When you can choose an Anvilgard army, you can choose from one of the following benefits for illicit dealings, because they're all scummy and like piratey. Black Market Bounty. 1 additional friendly Anvilgard hero can have an artifact of power. Dabblings in Sorcery. 1 additional friendly Anvilgard Dragon, Anvilgard Charybdis, or Anvilgard Warhydra can have a Drakeblood Curse from the Drakeblood Curses table. You just get an extra like mutation basically. Or Hidden Agenda, you get D3 extra command points. That's awesome. Drakeblood Curses. People have been experimenting on the monsters. If an Anvil Guard army includes any dragons, cryptises, or war hydras, one of these models can have a Drakeblood curse, or 2 if you choose the black market dealing. Pick them or roll on the table opposite. You can choose 1 additional friendly Anvil Guard dragon, cryptis, or Anvil Guard or war hydra to have a Drakeblood curse for each War Scroll battalion in your army. The model cannot have more than 1 Drakeblood curse. And your command ability, you can use this command ability at the start of your battle shock phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Anvil Guard unit wholly within 12 inches of the friendly Anvil Guard hero. 1 model of that unit slain. However, you don't need to make battle shock tests for friendly Anvil Guard units wholly within 18 of that unit, because you make an example out of them. And then your command traits, the Black Fang Crime Lord, pick 2 different benefits from illicit dealings instead of 1. Slayer of Monsters, add 1 to hit and wound for attacks against monsters by the general. And Secretive Warlock, if this general is a wizard, they know all the spells from Dark Sorcery. If they're not a wizard, then they know 1. Your Artifacts of Power, the Drake Scale Cloak. This is roll a dice for each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to the bearer. On a 5+ is negated. The Venom Fang Blade, pick a bearer's melee weapon. If an unmodified wound roll for an attack made it as a 6, it takes D3 mortal wounds, in addition to normal damage. And the Asphyxiaca Sensor, this device divots a deadly gas. At the end of your combat phase, roll 1 dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer. On a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. That one's cool. Dark Mutations. So basically there's 3 of these, which means you really only want to max out on 3. Because they can't have no monster can have a different or the same one as somebody else. Acidic Blood. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound by a melee weapon. It's not negated. On a 4+, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound. So you bounce back wounds on 4+. Jutting Bones. After this model makes a charge move, you can pick 1 enemy unit within an inch and roll a dice. On a 2+, take D3 mortal wounds to give them an impact attack. And then Fell Gaze, subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units that are within 12 inches of any model with this Drakeblood curse. Spell Lords, Sap Strength. Has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit with an 18 of the caster that's visible to them. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit until the start of your next hero phase. Shadow Daggers has a casting value of 7. If cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 9 inches of the caster that's visible to them and take D6 mortal wounds. Whew. That's a really good one if you're going to take a fighty hero and then give him a spell with Secretive Warlock. Vitriolic Spray has a casting value of 8. If successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 6 of the caster that's visible to them. Until the start of your next hero phase, they have a save characteristic of dash. So you reduce someone's save to dash. No save. That one's madness. It's 8+ though. But it's an enemy unit, so it's the whole unit within 6 of the caster. It's visible to them. Oof, that is an amazing spell. Wow. Hallowheart battle traits. All right, so we're into Hallowheart now. The Radiant City. Has to be from Akshi, because, you know, fire. Each time a spell for, Eldritch Attunement, each time a friendly Hallowheart unit's affected by a spell or endless spell, roll a die. If you do so on a 5+, ignore the effects of that spell or spell on the unit. But it doesn't, each time a friendly Hallowheart is affected by a spell or a spell. That includes your own spells, the way this is written. Each time a friendly I just noticed that. Each time a friendly Hallowheart unit is affected by a spell or endless spell, you can roll a dice. That's can though, so it's optional. Okay, good. If you do so on a 5+, ignore it. Your Mages of the Whitefire Council can cast 1 extra spell in each of their hero phases. And then your command ability is Arcane Channeling. You can use this command ability at the start of your hero phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Hallowheart wizard unit and roll a die. That wizard suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the roll. In addition, until the start of your next hero phase, add that roll to the casting rolls made by all friendly Hallowheart wizards within 12 of them. So somebody takes a big beating, and you might get +6 to cast. Oh my god. Heroes of Hallowheart, your command traits. Veterans of the Blazing Crusade. Do not take battle shock tests for friendly Hallowheart units that are wholly within 18 of the general. Warden of the Flame. This title is bestowed upon the leader of the city's standing army. At the start of your hero phase, roll a die on a 4+, get an extra command point. And Famed Spell Hunter. If this general is a wizard, add 3 to the roll when this general attempts to dispel an endless spell. If this general is not a wizard, they can dispel 1 endless spell in your hero phase, if they were. And then your relics, Artifacts of Power. The Agloraxi Prism. Subtract 1 for hit rolls for attacks made with missile weapons, target the bearer. Pauldrons of Living Flame. At the end of your combat phase, roll the dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer on a 4+, take D3 mortal wounds, kind of like the Misty one from the last city. And then Whitefire Tome. If the bearer is a wizard, they know all the spells from Lore of the Whitefire instead of only 2. If the bearer is not a wizard, they know one spell from Lord of Whitefire and can attempt to cast in your hero phase. Lord of Whitefire, so they get 6 spells because they're the casty city. Roaming Wildfire, cast on a 6. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 18 of the caster that's visible to them. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. Then roll a dice for each other enemy unit within 6. On a 4+, they also take D3 mortal wounds. Seer Wounds, cast on a 6. If cast, pick one friendly unit within 18 of the caster that's visible. Heal D6 wounds allocated to that unit. Elemental Cyclone, cast on a 6. If cast, pick one enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that's visible. Roll 1 dice for each model of that unit that's within 12 inches of the caster. On a 4+, they take a mortal wound. Oof, another big unit mulcher, potentially. Warding Brand, casting value of 6. If cast, pick one friendly unit wholly within 18 of the caster. It's visible. Until the start of your next hero phase, roll a dice each time a wound inflicted by a melee weapon is allocated to a model in that unit, not negated. On a 4+, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound, so you can bounce back damage. Crystal Aegis has a casting value of 5. If cast, until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to the rolls for Eldritch Attunement battle trait for friendly Hallowheart units wholly within 12 inches of the caster. So you get 4+ shrug spells. And then Ignite Weapons. Cast on a 6, pick a friendly unit wholly within 18 of the caster that's visible to them. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until the start of your next hero phase. And finally, the Tempest's Eye. So atop of the Titan Spear Mountain, you're from Akshi. Alert and Forewarned. Add 3 to move characteristic of friendly Tempest Eye units until the end of the first battle round. In addition, add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target friendly Tempest Eye units in the first battle round. Outriders of the Realms, add 1 to run rolls for friendly Tempest Eye units. And then standing contracts, a Tempest's Eye army can include Karater and Overlord units. 1 in every 4 can be from that unit, or from that keyword. And they gain the Cities of Sigmar and Tempest Eye keyword. Rapid Redeploy. You can use this command ability in your shooting phase. If you do so, pick 1 friendly Tempest Eye unit that's within 12 of a friendly Tempest Eye hero. They can shoot even if they ran in the same turn. Tempest Eye, Lord of the Eye. Aether Guard Captain. Add 1 to charge rolls for Tempest Eye units that are wholly within 12 of the general. Hawkeye, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with the missile weapons that by friendly Tempest Eye units that are wholly within 12 of the general. And Swift as the Wind. This general can still run and charge in the same turn. In addition, the general and their mount fights at the start of the combat phase. And then your artifacts, you get the Patrician's Helm. Do not take battle shock tests for friendly Tempest Eye units that are wholly within 12 of the bearer. A Seerstone Amulet at the start of your hero phase. If the bearer is in the battlefield, roll a die on a 4+, get an extra command point. And Zephyrite Banner, you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Tempest Eye units that are wholly within 12 of the bearer. Aura of Glory, so these are your Lure of the Eagles. As a casting of 7, if cast, until the start of your next hero phase, add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Tempest Eye units that are wholly within 12 of the caster. Strike Eagles. Has a casting value of 7. If cast, pick up 1 enemy unit within 30 of the caster, invisible, and roll 6 dice. For every 4+, take a mortal wound. That's an awesome one. And then Celestial Visions. Cast on a 7. If cast, you get a command point. You just buy command points for the spell, basically. We got a unique little battle plan there. Our Path to Glory rules. And then we get into War Scrolls. The ones I'm going to go through are obviously these. There's going to be 7 right now, which are all unique to the different cities, and they are specifically designed to be used with individual cities. So basically every city gets 1 War Scroll battalion, and you can't cross them over because you have to have those keywords. So for the Hammerhall, the Hammerhallian Lancers, it's a Hammerhall Free Guild General and a Griffin, and 3 to 6 units of Hammerhall Demigryph Knights. You get a Glorious Cavalry Charge. Add 1 to hit and wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by units in this battalion. They made a charge move in the same turn and are wholly within 18 of a Free Guild General and a Griffin from the same battalion. Viridian Pathfinders, this is interesting. You have to take a Living City Nomad Prince, Wildwood Rangers, 3 units, and 0 to 1 Living City Wild Riders. So basically it's the Wanderers come home. They get Masters of Ambush. Add 1 to charge rolls for friendly units from this battalion if they use the Hunters of the Hidden Path trait to set up in the battlefield in the same turn. So you're charging it on 8s, basically. Greywater Artillery Company. 1 Greywater Fastness Cogsmith and 2 to 4 Hellstorm Rocket Batteries or Hellblaster Volley Guns. You get a Greywater Welcome. What a great name for a trait. In your shooting phase of the first battle round, friendly war machines from this battalion can shoot twice if they're within 6 inches of a friendly hero from this battalion and not within 3 of the enemy. You get the Whitefire Retinue, 3 to 6 Hallowheart Hero Wizards. Add 1 to casting and unbinding rolls for friendly wizards from this battalion if they're within 6 of another friendly model from the same battalion. So if you get them all together, you get plus to cast and unbind. Your Aether Guard Windrunners, a Tempest Eye Free Guild General and a Griffin. 3 to 6 Tempest Eye Free Guild Outriders or Pistoliers. And 0 to 2 Grunstock Gun Haulers. Swift like the wind, units in this battalion can retreat and still shoot and or charge later in the same turn. The Charwind Beast Hunters. You have to have a Fleet Master, 3 units of Anvil Guard Black Corsairs, 1 to 3 units of Scourge Runner Chariots, and 0 to 1 Charybdis. And you get Beast Hunters, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by this unit when they target a monster. And then finally the Phoenix Flight. It's 1 to 2 Frost Hearts and 1 to 2 Flamespire Phoenixes. They get a Golden Ore of the Phoenicium. At the start of your hero phase, you can heal 1 wound allocated to each Phoenicium unit wholly within 12 inches of a unit from this battalion. So basically, if there's 4 of them, they'd all heal 4 wounds if they're all within 12 of each other. And so would everybody else. And we're into regular War Scrolls now. So again, I said I'm not going to go through these, but you can see here what we have access to. The General and Griffin, General, Demigryph Knights, Great Swords, Free Guild Guard, which are your either spear, swords, or halberds. Outriders, Pistoliers, and then handguns, crossbows, and flagellants. So basically all the old Plastic Empire stuff that was available at the end of 8th edition is in this book. Battle Mages, Battle Mage and a Griffin, Luminarch of Hysh, Celestial Hurricanum, and then we're into the Dark Elves, sorry, the Darkling Covens, Sorceress on Black Dragon, Sorceress or Blackguard, Executioners, Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, Dark Shards, the whole Dark Elf army book pretty much. Dwarves, the Warden King, Rune Lord, and Longbeards, Iron Drakes and Ironbreakers, Hammers, Cogsmith, Gyrocopters, and Gyrobombers, Steam Tank, the Volley Gun, Hellstorm Rocket Battery, the Anointed, the Phoenix Guard, the Frostheart Phoenix, Flamespire Phoenix, your behemoths, along with the dragons and stuff, Dreadlord of Black Dragon, War Hydra, Drakespawn Chariots, Drakespawn Knights, Shadow Warriors, Assassins, Dark Riders, Charybdis, Fleet Masters, Corsairs, Nomad Princes, Scourge Runners, Eternal Guard, Wildwood Rangers, Wild Riders, Sisters of the Watch, and the Sisters of Thorn, and that's it. And those are your unit availabilities, basically. And then going through point values, I'm not sure if anything's changed. I kind of don't think it has. Again, I didn't cross-fit any of this stuff, but we'll go through it once just for the point values so you can see if it has. Those of you who are keen-eyed. Hellboss is 120, Hellstorm is 130, and those are your artillery choices. And then they did not put in the Dwarf Artillery, which I found interesting. None of the Dwarf Artillery is in here. Yeah, just the Human Artillery they kept. They got rid of the Dwarf Cannon. This is strange. An Organ Gun. Bleak Swords, Dark Shards, this is all battle line now. Bleak Swords are 90 for 10, 320 for 40. Dark Shards are 100 for any amount, up to 40. Dread Spears are 90 or 320 for 40. Eternal Guard are 130 or 330 for 30. Free Guild Crossbows are 100, up to 30. Free Guild Guard are 80, 280 for 40. Handgunners are 100. Ironbreakers are 130 or 330 for 30. Longbeards are 110 or 270 for 30. Celestial Hurricane is 220. Flamespire is 200. Frostheart is 220 for the behemoths. And we're in behemoths now, by the way. Charybdis is 170. And Battleline and Anvil Guard army. Luminarch is 210 and a behemoth. Steam Tank is 200 and Battleline in if your general is a Steam Tank hero, because you can have a Steam Tank hero. War Hydra, Battleline and Anvil Guard army, 170. Anointed is 100. Anointed is the Phoenix Guard character, basically. None of Azurian. Assassin is 80. Battle Mage is 90. Blackguard Fleet Master is 60. Cogsmith is 60. Free Guild General is 60. Sorry, 100 rather. Nomad Prince is 120. Runelord is 90. Sorceress is 90. Warden King is 110. Anointed on Flamespire Phoenix is 300. Anointed on Frostheart Phoenix is 320. Battle Mage on a Griffin is 300. Celestial Hurricane with Celestial Battle Mage is 280. Dreadlord on Black Dragon's 300. Free Guild General on Griffin is 320. Luminarch of Hysh on a White Battle Mage with White Battle Mage. Sorry, yeah, that's right. The Luminarch of Hysh with the Battle Mage on top is 270. Sorceress on Black Dragon is 300, and a Steam Tank with Commander is 250. The Black Guard are 140. Dark Rider, and their battle line in Darkling Covens. Sorry, if your general is Darkling Covens. Dark Riders are 110 or 360 for 20 if your general is a Shadowblade. Demigryph Knights are 180 up to 12, and they are battle line if your Free Guild is your general. Drakespawn Chariots 880 or 210 if your general's Order Serpentis for up to 3. Drakespawn Knights are 170 and then for 5, and battle line if your Order Serpentis general. Executioners are 130, 330 for 30 if you're Darkling Covens. Flagellants, this one's interesting. They are 80 or 280, and their battle line if your general is human, which I find really interesting because I guess the freaks just show up. Great Swords 160 for 10 or 420 for 30, and they are battle line if you're Free Guild general. Outriders are 100 for 5. Tempest Eye, they become battle line. Pistoliers, same thing. Tempest Eye, they become battle line, 100 points. Gyro Bombers are 80 or 210 for 3. 70 for Gyrocopters or 180 for 3. Hammers, 140 or 360 for 30, and their battle line if your general is dispossessed. Iron Drakes, 150 for 10, and they are battle line if your general is Duardin. Phoenix Guard, 160, 420, and battle line if you have a Phoenix Temple general. Scourge Chariots are 60 or 150 for 3 if you have a Scourge Privateer general. Shadow Warriors are 110, battle line in a Cities of Sigmar army if your general is a Shadowblade. And then Sisters of the Thorn are 130 if you're a Wanderer, your battle line. Sisters of the Watch are 160, and then battle line if you're a Wanderer. Wild Riders are never battle line, but they're 130. And then 130 for Wildwood Rangers, also battle line if you're a Wanderer General. And then the cost for the battalions are Aether Guard Windrunners, 120. The Charwind Beast Hunters are 120. Greywater Artillery Company is 120. The Hammer Hallian Lancers is 140. Phoenix Flight's 130. Viridian Pathfinders is 140. And the Whitefire Retinue is 140. And then your faction allies are Daughters of Cain, Fire Slayers, Deepkin, Crowded Overlords, except if you're Tempest Eye, because you're already getting them. Sylvaneth, except if you're Living City or Greywater Fastness, because the Greywater Fastness, they hate them because they burn down all the trees. And that's it. Taking up arms in the name of the God King. This is Cities of Sigmar. So what do I think? Well, I think this was the best possible outcome for a lot of those collections of miniatures. There's a lot of work done to build the scene in the background here, and I think that there's going to be some really cool mixed allegiance, or not mixed allegiance, but mixed like species armies that are going to come out of this book. Are they really good on the battlefield? A couple of them have some potential. I think that there's something to be said for the Crowd and Overlord one. Actually, I think pulling Crowd and Overlords up into just having more options, right? You've got all these options now that you can use if you use the Tempest Eye city and include a bunch of Cradrons. So I'm excited about it. I think I'm probably gonna do the Living City. I'm gonna try them out and see what I can bang together with my current collection, just like what's unpainted, basically sitting out there, and just see how it works. Because I want to actually put this one in the field, I think, and give it a go. It's not a free guild army. It's not just humans. It's humans, elves, and dispossessed. And I think it's gonna give people who want to paint some of those miniatures just a reason to go pick them up, and gives them kind of a place where they didn't have a place before. You can obviously still use them all on their own, still using their own various allegiance abilities out of the General's Handbook. But I think this is a good like look at what's going on kind of to like the everyday people in the mortal realms, and just a good way to get those miniatures back on the table, because there's a lot of great miniatures out there that aren't being used right now, and I think that giving them reason to is fantastic. I hope they do something like this for Chaos, to bring back and tie together all of the like mortal stuff, the Slaves of Darkness like book, because I think the Slaves of Darkness book could be really cool and could do a similar like 1 in 4 inclusion thing for like demons and beasts and all that stuff. And I'd love to see that happen. So I think this is a great start with the Order. Maybe we'll see something for Death and Chaos and Destruction in the future. So hope you enjoyed that review. We'll see you for more of this in the future. Thanks, Tom Ash. Have a great night. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below to get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Deathbed Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.